I'm Joseph, and I'm only 14 years old, but I've had quite a rough life so far. When I was 3 years old, my parents died in a plane crash, and nobody else in my family wanted to take care of me. So I was sent straight into foster care. I've been in and out of several foster homes, and I've never been lucky enough to get adopted. But I'm okay though. For the past 3 years, I've been sharing a home with 8 other kids. To be honest, this has been my most comfortable foster home so far. My foster parents don't really pay much attention to us, so we do what we feel like most of the time. Everything was as normal as could be for foster kids, until one calm day in the summer. Before I continue, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any exciting stories. We lived near a forest, and during our days off from school, we'd often go exploring together. I mean, there was nothing to do in the house anyway, so we had to find a way to occupy our time. Our foster parents weren't rich enough to buy us all computers and other electronic devices, so we had fun the old-fashioned way. One particular summer afternoon, we decided to explore further than we ever had. My siblings were all there. There was Nina, the cutest one, who was only 3 years old. Nina's brother Fred, who was 5, and Josiah and Jacob, who were 12-year-old twins. Monica was 14 like me, and she was my foster parents' biological daughter. Reggie and Harry were 16 and Edward was already 18, but our foster parents decided not to kick him out, even though he refused to find a job after leaving high school. There were so many of us, it was hard to keep track of everyone most of the time. But that afternoon, we were all together running through the forest like wild animals. "Ooh, Joseph, what's this flower called?" Nina asked while hopping with joy. She loved being out in nature. "I don't know, but it's pretty just like you," I said, and I put it in her hair. She ran ahead to meet the others while I walked slowly collecting strange-looking rocks for my rock collection. We'd been walking for quite a while, and I hadn't realized we had gone further than we ever had. Suddenly, I heard some shouting ahead. "Joseph, come quickly, look at this!" It sounded like Fred, but everyone else was shouting. I ran ahead to see what the fuss was about. I found everyone near the entrance of a little cave. "Did everyone else see what I just saw?" asked Monique. "I feel like I'm dreaming," said Edward. I pushed them aside and walked inside. "All I see is darkness," I said. Edward handed me his cell phone and turned the light on. I flashed it around. It's just an ordinary cave, Edward," I said. "Look over there," he said and pointed me towards a huge metal chest of drawers. I was extremely confused. What was a chest of drawers doing in a cave in the middle of nowhere? "Did you all open it?" I asked. He nodded and motioned for me to go over there myself to investigate. I opened the first drawer and it was full of gold blocks. The second was filled with precious stones. I opened the others and it seemed like all the drawers contained something valuable. My foster brothers and sisters stood next to me and started shoving stuff in their pockets. They took as much as they could. I, however, was only interested in a small silver box. It was the size of an ordinary jewelry box, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get it open. This was the only thing I took from the cave before we went home. The kids had a blast for the next few days. Edward helped them to trade in the valuables for money, and they bought tons of stuff. Expensive clothes, shoes, and all the latest gadgets. Our foster parents didn't notice at all. Sometimes it felt like they were just furniture. Then, one day Edward disappeared. He sent us a message saying that he had taken more things from the cave and that he had enough money to start a life of his own now. He never even said goodbye. I would have cared a little more if I wasn't so preoccupied with trying to open that darn silver box. I was pretty sure that whatever was inside was more valuable than everything else we had taken from the cave. I took it to a locksmith one day to see if I could get a key or if he could open it. "I don't understand this thing at all. I suppose it's a special kind of lock and that there's only one key on the planet which can open it," he said. "Come on, there must be a way," I said. He nodded sadly and I left. I kept it in a secure location under my bed, and one night I could have sworn I heard it beeping. "I guess I'm so obsessed with this stupid thing that I'm hearing it making noises now," I thought as I rolled over into another dream. The next few days I tried and tried again to get the box open. Eventually, I became so frustrated that I threw it in the trash. I made sure I looked out of the window when the garbage truck came so I could make sure it was as far away from me as possible. Phew, now I can live my life again without worrying about that stupid thing, I thought. Our summer continued along happily. We went outside less and less because we had the latest Xbox and PlayStation and billions of games. We still tried to go out and get some sunshine sometimes, but I guess it would have been better if we had stayed inside. One afternoon, 6 of us went to the park just so the younger kids could play a bit. Nina was super excited and hopped all the way there. When we got there, the twins, Monica and I, sat down on a bench and started arguing about who was the best character from our favorite TV show. Then we argued about other things, but we were so caught up that we completely forgot about Nina and Fred. Then Fred came running towards us crying. "Somebody took Nina," he said. "What do you mean? Stop being silly. Go get her. It's time for us to head home anyway," Monica replied. "A man dressed in all black picked her up and took her away. She didn't even scream," he said. "Where did he go?" I asked, and he pointed. We all ran in that direction looking for whoever was carrying our little sister away, but we had no luck. She was gone. Monica had a cell phone, so she called the police right away. Then we ran home to tell our foster parents what had happened. When the police came to our house, they couldn't understand why anyone would kidnap a little foster girl. "It's not like you all have lots of money or anything," one of the officers said. "No need to rub it in. Go find our daughter," my foster mom screamed. None of us slept that night. Our foster mom cried all night while our dad couldn't stop pacing up and down. We were too worried. Where had they taken Nina? Why had they taken her? She must be so scared. When the sun rose, I dozed off for a while. When I got up, I showered and got dressed. Then I went downstairs to make breakfast for my family, who had all fallen asleep. I heard a shuffle near the kitchen door and saw an envelope slip underneath. I grabbed it without daring to open the door. It wasn't addressed to anyone, so I opened it and pulled out a note. It read, "Joseph, if you ever want to see your sister alive again, meet me in front of the post office at 2:00 p.m. tomorrow." I was terrified and confused. How did they even know that I was the one standing in the kitchen? That day was filled with a horrible anxiety because the police had no updates and no luck finding Nina. I didn't say anything about the letter to the police because I thought it might mess up the plan somehow and Nina might get hurt. So I kept it all a secret and I went to wait in front of the post office the next day. As I stood with sweaty palms and a beating heart, a huge, expensive-looking car with heavily tinted windows pulled up in front of me. The window came down and the driver motioned for me to get in the back seat. I was terrified, but I went in. "Hello, Joseph," a beautiful woman next to me said. Immediately, my terror faded because she was too gorgeous to be real. "I realize you found my family's hidden stash of wealth. I don't mind that your foster brothers and sisters took most of my things. It's fine. You all deserve it after being poor, abandoned children for so long. All I want back is a silver box. I know you have it because there's a tracking device inside, and it was in your room a few nights ago. This box contains a treasured family heirloom, and it's worth millions. If this isn't returned to me soon, you will be killed. If you cannot return the box, you have to give me $50 million. You have 10 days. I will meet you at the same time, same place in 10 days, she said. If you're so rich, why is such a treasured heirloom in a cave? That makes no sense. Where is my sister? I asked. At that moment, the car stopped in a vacant parking lot. Another car quickly approached and someone pushed Nina outside. There she is. Now get out of my car, she said. And remember, 10 days or else. I ran to pick up Nina. Are you okay? I asked. I was really scared, but I'm happy that I'm back with you now, she said and hugged me. The cars sped away, and I went home with Nina, who was embraced by everyone at home. When they asked me what happened, I told them the kidnappers returned her, but I was very vague about it all. I was terrified. I had no money, and I had thrown the box away. How was I going to become a millionaire in 10 days? I had to get to work quickly. In the beginning, I started doing odd jobs for my neighbors, like mowing their lawns and weeding their gardens. But in 5 days, I had only made $150. I realized that with only 5 days to go, I had to do something quickly. Crime, I thought. It's the only way. I know this was a stupid idea, but I was desperate, and I guessed I could do something illegal to make money fast. I made many fake accounts online and sent out emails and messages to random people saying that they had won $1 million. But they'd have to deposit $1,000 before they could get it. You know, a classic scam. But then I realized I could not continue when a lady named Sandra sent me this message. "Hi there, I'm so excited that I won this money. We are down to our last few dollars and I've used all the money in my savings account to send you $1,000. My husband has been sick with cancer and I don't have enough money to take care of him. I recently lost my job and my 11-year-old Dalmatian is sick. I am so broke that I can't even take him to the vet. I have been so depressed. Thanks so much. It's a miracle that I'm now a millionaire." My heart broke. This lady really had nothing and she sent it all to me. There was no way I'd be able to make this money by committing crimes. I just didn't have it in me. I went to the living room, sat down, and buried my face in my hands. I had never felt this horrible. Suddenly, Nina hopped into the room. Joseph, are you sad?" she said. I didn't lift my head. She left the room and came back in. "Here, I have this pretty toy that might make you happy. I found it in the trash the other day," she said. I lifted my head, and there it was. Nina was holding the silver box. "I didn't know you took it out of the trash," I exclaimed. "Yes, I hid it in my room. You are happy now, yay," she said and hugged me. I couldn't believe my luck. This little girl had saved my life. At the end of my 10-day countdown, I was able to return the box to the gorgeous woman who just smiled and nodded at me. After this totally insane experience, I've taken a vow to protect Nina forever. I will do my best to make sure that we are never split up and placed in different homes.
I got to be the captain of my college cheer team in my freshman year of college, which was a pretty big deal for me. It opened a lot of opportunities for me, from gaining friends, popularity, and even travels. I had always imagined a perfect life, and that was exactly what I had gotten. I was fairly attractive according to the standards of society. I was very popular in college, and everyone was nice to me. So I'd like to think that they liked me. And let's not even get started with the boys. It was like most of the guys in that college were at my tail, waiting, hoping I would break up with my boyfriend. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell, and you will be the most popular person in your neighborhood. Trust me, it works. But that was never going to happen, as my boyfriend was the best of all. He was handsome, athletic, and was on the college football team. He was a little on the stupid side, I agree, but he was very sweet and I loved him with all my heart. Then I had an amazing cheer team who were also my closest friends, and I was pretty good at my academics. That's why college was amazing. It was similar to my home life. I had my own apartment, but my parents were rich business people, so I didn't have to work much, and I had a twin brother who was also my best friend. We knew everything about each other and had no secrets between us. So my life was beautifully perfect, and honestly, I couldn't have asked for anything more or anything different. I was grateful and thankful for everything and everyone in my life as they were. However, nothing perfect ever lasts, and I came to realize that and experience it in a very bitter way. In fact, I even thought of it as life being cruel to me after such a long and beautiful period of perfection. So the realization started one specific day, which was one of the most important days of my life. It was one of the match days with our rival college, and we had been giving our full energy, heart, and soul to prepare for the best cheer for our football team. We had traveled to many places and colleges doing cheers, but this specific game was important because it was the biggest event we had ever performed in, with famous sports celebrities present. We had prepared 3 amazing cheer routines, each of 2 minutes, because we were committed to boosting the confidence and performance of our football team. And as the cheer captain, it was a big moment for me. "Okay, people, start warming up," I told my cheer team, and went to walk my boyfriend to the football field as he was playing. Before entering the field, I gave him a kiss for good luck. "You're going to do awesome," I said. "You're going to do better than me," he said, and ran off to the field with his teammates. I too came back and started warming up and preparing for the performance. Then the football game started, and soon after that, it was also time for our cheer performance. So first, we created a V formation to start off, and I was about to shout the first cheer, but suddenly I started feeling weak and dizzy. My feet started to tremble, and I just collapsed on the ground. I obviously didn't have any idea what happened after I collapsed, but I woke up a few minutes later to find out that the cheer performance was already done. and everyone was concerned about me. "How are you feeling?" the college nurse asked me as soon as I got up. "I'm still feeling weak," I replied, and she suggested that I instantly go to a hospital. I knew in that condition I would not be able to perform in the next 2 rounds of cheer, so I thought going to the hospital was a wise choice. "Let us go with you," one of my friends from the team said as I was about to leave. But I insisted they stay as our team was already short of one person. My boyfriend was also in the field and he had no idea about what was going on, so I thought to let him be as it wasn't a big deal, and I was very much capable of taking myself to the hospital. I, sure, could have called my parents or my brother, but I remembered them telling me that they had some important business just the other day, and my brother had an important exam, so I didn't want to bother them either. After reaching the hospital, I met up with the doctor, and he put me through some tests, like some blood tests, x-rays, and a whole body checkup. When the doctor was finally done checking me thoroughly, he made a face as if he had seen a ghost. He even called in another doctor and asked her to go through my reports again, and she made the same face. I was so worried, I had no idea what was going on. "Is it that bad, Doc?" I asked. Then he let out a long sigh and first asked if someone was with me. So I told him there was no one, and only then he proceeded to answer my question. "Your vital organs are failing rapidly, and if it keeps on at this rate, you might not have more than 5 days to live," he said in a very serious tone. I was shocked to my core after hearing that, but the doctor kept on speaking. "I am so sorry to tell you this, but there is no cure for a condition like yours. We can just give you some medication to ease your pain," he added. He also told me that I could choose to be admitted to the hospital for the rest of my remaining days, or go out in the world and live freely, and that it was completely up to me as the hospital was not going to make any difference, even if I stayed there. So I made my choice. I decided not to stay in the hospital and spend my 5 precious days there. For that, I also decided not to tell my parents or anyone else anything about it, and keep it a secret, because I knew that if they knew, they would for sure admit me to the hospital, hoping to find a cure. I didn't cry or panic about the fact that I was going to be gone too soon. I just maintained my calm and headed home as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, I also texted my boyfriend and friends that my health was all normal, and I just had a little moment of weakness as I hadn't been eating well for the last few days. The next day, I decided to go out with my closest friends, aka my cheer team, and spend the rest of the day with them. We did all the fun activities we used to do, like get brunch, go to the spa, get our nails done, and get some massages. It was overall a relaxing day, and a day well spent. I didn't choose any adventurous activity to do with them because my body was a little weak for that. After returning to my apartment, I lit some healing incense candles and did some meditation in hopes that my body would heal. Even though I knew what the doctor had said, I still believed some miracle would happen and I would heal and live. The next day, I planned a date with my boyfriend. Although I wanted to spend all my time with him, I had to make sure I gave everyone I love enough time with me. So we went on a nice date at the beach. It was our favorite, as our first date was on a beach as well. We sat there talking till late in the evening and returned back to my apartment after watching the sunset. After returning, he made me dinner, my favorite, mushroom ravioli. I had such a nice day with him, but inside I felt terrible having to keep my condition a secret from him. Then he went to bed first, and I did the candle and meditation routine over again. I don't know why, but I felt like this was actually healing me. On the 3rd day, I got my parents to spend some time with me. I went home, and since I couldn't do much activity, we just sat in the living room talking. Whenever I talked to them, I would think of how much they love me, and how much I love them back, and how unhappy they would have been if they knew I had so little time to live. After talking for a while, my mom and dad went to the kitchen. "We're making everything you like today. I hope you came with a good appetite," my dad said as he entered the kitchen. While they were cooking, I browsed through some movies to choose which we were going to watch. The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings were our favorites, but they were lengthy, so I chose The Shawshank Redemption, as it was the second to our favorite. Shortly, they were done preparing everything, and my boyfriend and brother had also arrived. So we brought our plates of food to the living room, put on the movie, and spent our day like that, being lazy, but spending much-needed quality time as a family. The 4th day also arrived, and I decided to spend it with my twin brother. We set out a picnic mat under the backyard tree by the lake. We brought some picnic food and board games like we used to do ever since we were kids. We spent our time talking and catching up on each other's life. I especially wanted to make sure he was happy with his life, so I asked him about his academics and why he didn't have a girlfriend yet. "I will have a girlfriend when I find the right person," he replied, and added that his academics were going really well. I was very happy about it, and everything was going well. But then he suddenly asked me about my life and if I was happy. It was with him, and at that moment that I felt the most terrible about keeping my condition a secret, because we had always told each other everything, and there was not a single secret between us except that one. I got so emotional because of that I started crying like a baby in the middle of the conversation. He must have immediately figured out something was not right, so he hugged me and asked if I was going through anything painful and not telling him. "I am very happy," I said and kept my secret. Then it was the 5th day, the supposed to be last day of my life. On that day, I called all my friends over to my house for a kind of small lunch party. My parents, boyfriend, and brother were already there. The day to me was bittersweet. I had turned pale, and it was visible that I was sick, but I covered it up with makeup. However, I was feeling weak and didn't want to move much. So I just took a chair and watched my family and friends having fun and enjoying everything. Seeing them happy made me feel like I had the strength in me to heal, and their love was a key. But still, I felt like keeping my condition a secret was the right thing to do, and I was happy about that decision, because if I hadn't, instead of enjoying and having fun, my friends and family would be crying over me in my hospital bed and looking at me with pity. If it was going to be the last moment of my life, I would have chosen to see them happy and smiling. That day too was over, and after spending time with my loved ones, I honestly felt a lot better. I lit the candles and meditated, imagining each of my organs healing, and I was feeling like it was working. Right now is the eve of the 6th day before going to bed. I recorded this before the day ends, so at least you know my story. I'm unsure if I will wake up or not the next morning, or if I will live to see another day. But what I am sure about is that I have no regrets. Thanks for watching. Have you ever kept a deep secret all to yourself? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other videos on the channel.
When I was 17, I took my first job as a caretaker and house sitter. I had to take care of an elderly woman, Mrs. Waters, who was super rich, and I had to look after her mansion home. My job was to cook for her, do her laundry, get her everything she needed, take her on walks in the garden, clean the house, and look after the house when she was traveling abroad for her treatments. I used to live there, and without a family of my own, I felt like it was the perfect job for me. Mrs. Waters, on the other hand, did have family, a lot of them, but no one ever came to visit her, not on her birthdays or any other occasions, at least not in the 2 years I worked there. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell, and you'll find out who has a crush on you soon. Trust me, it works. For her sake, I would even make invitation cards and send them out, but they would not show up. I appreciate what you're doing, child, but they would not come. They haven't even called for years, she would say, trying to console me, but I knew she was hurt inside. However, even though no one from her family ever came to meet her, there was one member who was an exception, her grandson. His name was Casper, and he was also super rich like his grandma and had no parents like me. In fact, he had become a millionaire at just 20 from the incomes of his own business. He was also a bit handsome, but too proud of a guy to even say hi to me once in all the times he visited. I don't know why he never talked to me, so I made an assumption that it may be because of the difference in our status. He was a millionaire, and I was just a poor caretaker after all. He was nothing like his grandmother, who was the sweetest. She always treated me better than anyone had ever treated me in life. Very respectfully, yet loving no matter how she was feeling. I knew that she would feel lonely a lot of times, and I felt really bad about it. So I tried my best to be the best company and make her happy when I was taking care of her. And it wasn't that hard, honestly. She was happy while feeding the birds, watering the plants, or when we played chess by the fireplace, so it was an easy task. But she was getting older day by day, and because of that, she was falling sick more often. I was just a caretaker and not a nurse, so she had to make visits and stays at the hospital more often. She could have easily hired an in-house nurse, but she didn't want to do that because that meant there would be no more need for me. "I like having you around," she said whenever I brought up the topic. But then one day something unexpected happened. Her family showed up out of nowhere without any calls or invitations. Mrs. Waters' son, Casper's uncle, then fired me from my job while she was admitted to the hospital. "You're of no use. You're not even a nurse. We're going to live here with her, so you can go your own way," he said, and made me leave so fast that I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to Mrs. Waters. Her son and his wife and children were so mean. It was sad, but I was just a worker, and there was nothing I could do about it as they were her family, so I packed my bags and went off. After that, my life became really different. I got an apartment from the generous salary I had saved from the time I worked at Mrs. Waters. I took a day job and joined a college for the evening. No matter how busy I was, I missed Mrs. Waters a lot of the time. She was, after all, a mother figure to me, which I had never had since I grew up in an orphanage. I even called the house a couple of times to check up on her, but her mean son and daughter-in-law would never let me talk to her or give me any information on her health. One day, however, when I called, she was the one to pick up. "Mrs. Waters, it's Athena," I said in an excited tone as I was happy to finally be able to talk to her. "I know your voice, child," she said, and pretended like she was happy and healthy, but I knew from her voice that she was weak and in pain. However, she did not admit it to me because she knew I could do nothing about it. Like that, we talked for half an hour, and I told her all that was going on in my life from the college to my job, and she was very happy for me. But after that, it was time to say goodbye, and I literally cried while hanging up the phone. Also, it was the last time I ever talked to her. I felt a little better after talking to her, and was able to focus on my work and studies better than before in the next few days. But after that, something so shocking happened in my life that my life turned upside down. It was one of the normal days as usual, and I had just finished my shift at work. I had overworked that day, and because of that, I was running a little late for my classes. So I decided to take a shortcut through a silent, abandoned alley that day, and not take my regular path. It was a scary place even in the daytime, so I never took the path ever, but that day, I had no choice. So I walked very fast as I was walking through there, and sooner than I had thought, I got closer to the end of the alley. I felt such a relief that I was going to be out of there soon, but I later realized that I decided to feel relieved a little bit too soon because that changed in no time. When I finally got out of the alley, a masked man was waiting for me out there, with his van blocking my way of escape. As soon as he saw me, he pushed me inside the van, grabbed me, taped my mouth, and tied my legs and hands. His grip was so strong that I couldn't do anything about it, and it all happened so quickly that I didn't even get a chance to scream for help. And even if I had screamed, it wouldn't have made a difference, as there was not even a single person out there. After he was done tying me up, he went in front of the van and started driving. Meanwhile, I was trying and struggling to get out of the ropes and the tape. "Stop struggling. It's not going to come off," the man said, but I was not going to stop. I kept on moving and struggling, but after a while, I got tired and fell asleep right there. I woke up sometime later to find myself out of the van. However, the place I was at was not the one I recognized. It was strange, but it was not a creepy place where kidnappers take people as we see in movies. It was a good room with a nicely made bed, a table with a water bottle on it, a sofa, and a chair to which I was tied. Yes, my hands and legs were still tied, but my mouth was not taped like before. So I took my chance and started screaming for help. But then the masked kidnapper entered the room. "Would you shut up?" he said, and started taking off his mask. You're not going to get away with this," I screamed at him, but then I couldn't say a word when he was done taking off the mask. The person behind the mask, or more importantly, the one who kidnapped me, was none other than Casper the Millionaire, Mrs. Waters' grandson. I instantly started wondering why he had kidnapped me. He's a millionaire, and I'm just a poor girl. Getting ransom cannot be the reason, I thought. Then my thoughts went to a Korean drama that I had watched the night before, where the things that were happening to me at the moment had happened. The romantic cheesy stuff, like how the girl gets kidnapped by the millionaire and they fall in love. After that, my thoughts shifted to how handsome Casper was and how good his hair looked, and that I was no longer scared about being kidnapped. As I came back to reality from my thoughts, I realized that Casper had been talking to me all that time, but I hadn't heard a single word. "Sorry, what were you saying?" I said, because he stopped speaking just as I started listening. "I said, stop screaming and trust me," he replied, and that was all he said that day, and for the next few days I was there. He only came into the room a few times in the day to give me food and water and books to read, and the books he gave me were the ones related to classes I was taking in college. I was so glad that he had an interest in the things about my life and was crushing on him more and more every day, and I always wondered what he must think about me, but he never talked. Especially not when I asked him answers for why he had kidnapped me and had me chained. One day he came into the room with some food and surprisingly unchained me. I'm going outside. You're safe inside, so just stay in until I return," he said in a serious tone and went off. After he went out, I started overthinking about the things he had said just before leaving. What did he mean by "you're safe inside"? I thought, and also about the worst possible scenarios, but I stayed in as he had asked me to. However, hours after hours passed, and there was no sign of him returning, so I started getting worried. I was scared for him since he didn't return so long, so I decided to go out to find him. I got out of the room and the house I was in to find myself in a town I didn't recognize, but I saw a diner nearby, so I went in there to see if anyone would lend me their phone to use. But when I went in, I completely forgot about the phone as something else caught my attention. A big TV right in front of the counter. However, it wasn't the size of the TV that got my attention. It was what was going on in it. There was a picture of me on the news, and the story was going on, so I asked the woman there to turn up the volume. And what I found out next was both extremely heartbreaking and shocking. The heartbreaking part about the thing I found out was that Mrs. Waters had passed away a few weeks back, right about the time I was kidnapped by the Millionaire. And then came the shocking part. I found out that Mrs. Waters had left half of her multi-million fortune to me in her will, a quarter to Casper, and the remaining to the charity. "That's not just it," someone said from behind. I turned around to see that it was Casper. After finding out that Grandma had left her fortune to you, I overheard my uncle and aunt conspiring to kidnap you, take the money, and make you disappear from the face of the earth, he explained. He also told me that he informed the police about it before anything could happen, and kidnapped me instead to keep me safe and then gathered evidence against them. And so the news was about the family who was conspiring against me getting arrested. "I am sorry it had to be like this, and I had to kidnap you," he said, being apologetic. I was so happy thinking about how he was keeping me safe all that time, and I was even blushing a little bit. "Well, you didn't listen to me for once about staying in," he said again, and smiled at me. I smiled back and got a little shy, realizing how it was the most he had ever talked to me at once. "Anyway, you're safe now and rich, so you're free to do whatever you want," he added. And suddenly I felt like it was then or never, so I just said it out loud. "I want to go out with you." Trust me, it was the most courageous thing I had ever done. He smiled and told me that he had always wanted to do that. So just like that, all of our problems were solved, and our lives were easy, and Casper and I began dating. Thanks for watching. How did you meet your crush? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other videos on the channel.